So again, this is Against Epistemic Accounts of Luck by Jesse Hill in analysis forthcoming. And so let's find out. As always, feel free to ask me anything you want during the course of this, and then we get to review at the end, and stick around and you'll be part of the review. Ears evolved from disused jawbones. See, this is the thing. I did not know that, but like the fact that your ear is actually part of what used to be part of jawbone that's fine. But like that's the thing. So maybe that's the thing. Taste receptors are used in other parts of the body as receptors, but of different sorts. Okay. Anywho, so here we go. Luck is typically defined in terms of two necessary and jointly significant conditions: significance and chance. One way of capturing the sense in which a lucky event is chancy is via an epistemic condition. More precisely, epistemic accounts of luck define luck's chanciness condition relative to a subject's epistemic position. This can be put in terms of the subject's evidence or knowledge about whether the event will occur. Yeah, it's like if I say like flipping this coin has a 50-50 chance, it's because I know there's two options here. So it's like that means I know something that's epistemic, and then you got a 50-50 chance of like heads or tails. And that's it. Frank says, but what does it even mean to taste? I bet it makes more sense to say that they taste, but that your brain interprets the signal differently. Yeah, I mean, they are receptors, and so they are, testing chemical compositions. That makes sense that you would have different sort of receptors all over your body, which you do, but like the fact that these are similar to taste receptors is a little freaky. But like, yeah, I expect that if there was more sugar in your nuts or in your ass, I'm sorry anyone watching this on YouTube, we were talking about different taste receptors in different parts of your body, and that could apparently sense sweetness. It wouldn't come off that way. I bet it would come off as not a sweet taste, but like something else is going on in your body. So, but yeah, if you want to look it up, check chat. Like they were saying, search 2013 receptors. So whatever. Anywho. Yeah, put that link back in chat. Okay, so epistemic accounts are prima facie plausible. Yeah, like if you know something about the world, then you can give some estimates on it. That's what like betting on horse racing is. You know something about the horse, you can bet on it. For example, why are you lucky to win a significant fair lottery in which millions of people enter? According to epistemic accounts, this significant event is a matter of luck for you because given your evidence or knowledge about the lottery, it seems incredibly unlikely that you would win. Another advantage of epistemic accounts is that they can easily handle several cases that are putative counterexamples to modal, control, and objective probability-based theories. Adam Fighter says, I brush my tongue to avoid bad breath, so what do I brush? Yeah, to avoid the other bad flavors. No one knows. But I suspect it's as Frank said. I mean, basically, the taste sensors you have on other parts of your body do not register as taste. They register as a different feeling of some sort. Okay. Despite these advantages, the author says, they will argue that luck's chanciness condition cannot be adequately defined in epistemic terms. This result is important as epistemic accounts have not received enough critical attention, especially compared to how much has been written in response to control and modal-based theories. Yes, that's a good recommendation. Do not use your toothbrush for anything other than brushing your teeth. Okay, evidence-based epistemic accounts fail. One way of defining luck's chanciness condition is in terms of an epistemic probability condition. Quote, event E is improbable to some degree for subject S, if and only if, immediately prior to E's occurring, S's evidence did not guarantee that E would occur. This is weird. You're just saying not guarantee. This doesn't add much to it. It's just it says evidence did not guarantee. That just means you don't know what's going to happen. It's like, but that was already the epistemic probability condition, so that's fine, but I don't think a whole lot was added by putting it in this whole formal sort of sentence. But when something is lucky, that means you don't know what's going to happen. Shocking. Okay. The basic idea behind the epistemic probability condition is that how lucky an event is depends directly on how probable the event is conditional on a subject's evidence, and by guarantee that E would occur, it is meant to say that the events have an epistemic probability of 1 on one's evidence. Yeah, so if you know it's going to occur, it's 100%. Sure. Additionally, an evidence-based account allows for degrees of luck based on how significant and epistemically improbable the relevant event is. Quote, holding fixed the significance of some event. If the event has an epistemic probability of 1, then the event is not at all lucky to any degree whatsoever. If the event has an epistemic probability of 95, then it was a little bit lucky. If the if the event has an epistemic probability of 0.1, then it was very lucky, and so on. Yeah. So if, like you say, it has a 10% chance and then it occurred, then it was a 9 out of 10 chance that it wasn't going to occur. You could feel like you got lucky on that 10%. Fine. A lot here depends on what counts as evidence. One way of thinking about evidence is in terms of facts accessible to the subject upon reflection, including the subject's experiences, knowledges, and justified beliefs. He's like, how do you come up with those numbers? That's important, but like then you can say how lucky you are based on what you know. Yeah, you got the sip from Browser. What's up, Browser? How you doing? Unfortunately, significance and epistemic improbability are not jointly sufficient for an event being a matter of luck, as one can construct counterexamples involving non-lucky events that satisfy both these conditions. To construct such a counterexample, simply take any significant event whose occurrence is non-chancy because it is necessarily true or the result of a controlled process, but make it such that the relevant subject's epistemic evidence for the occurrence of this event is low. Okay, so it's like say we were going to talk about taste receptors in your butt, which is what we were talking about. That is a very unlikely thing that we were going to talk about, but since DCI brought it up, and before DCI brought up, none of us thought that was going to happen. And then DCI Banks brought that up. And now everyone watching this video did not expect that was going to happen, but it was necessarily going to happen because this is a pre-recorded video if you're watching this on YouTube. So that means it was technically possible, but it was very unlikely. All right, so that's what the exact thing that we're saying here. For example, suppose that there's a lottery in which 1 million people participate. Furthermore, Roger has bought a ticket and believes that he has a 1 in a million chance of winning the lottery. However, Roger's friends have rigged the lottery in his favor such that he is certain to win. It is true that Roger will regard himself as quite lucky when he wins, but events that are rigged or events that are under an agent's total control are typically thought of as non-lucky. DCI says the conversation about eating while you're an AI brought it up. Yeah, I mean, this is this is kind of interesting. These questions about what actually changes in your reality when you're just like upload to the like servers, you lose a physical body. That means you lose all your taste receptors. How do you actually have any experiences that way? So then do you need to be in like the metaverse? You have to have like an avatar that can interact. Like you get into weird questions about the phenomenology of being in computers. What is it? Like that's why the Matrix was so like killer, is because it gave you the self-image. It recreated your entire physical body in the virtual world. And so it's like, that's how they got around it. But you have to do something like that. And that's, the chicken discussion and a whole sort of things. Yeah, Ivan Neo says, the upload includes a model of the physical body. Yeah, and that's why everything tastes like chicken, because the computers can't actually get what a taste was, because that would be like some epiphenomenon, what it tastes like to us, as opposed to just the chemicals in the computer. But so... that's the sort of thing. But like exactly what would it be? What is the model of the body? How accurate is that? Like how does it correspond? Who knows? Yeah. Oy vey. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to think that the chemical composition couldn't be matched in the model of chicken and what it tastes like. But, I mean, that was the whole argument that went on about maybe the computers couldn't figure out what tastes like chicken. That's why everything tastes like chicken. But apparently they could model what it is to cook a chicken and do it. So, yeah. But again, everyone's body is different, so it's like, how does that representation actually correspond to you? Discussion for another time. So yeah, we're just talking about rigging elections. To be clear, Roger may be lucky that he has friends who are willing to rig a lottery in his favor, and his win is still significant for him. But intuitively, that Roger won the lottery is either non-lucky or it involves very little luck, depending on how skilled his friends are at rigging such an event. Ivan says, yes, all we need are neural associations. That is all there is to qualia. Well, that is one of the positions in the world about qualia. Yes, that is a position. Perhaps the evidence-based theorist will deny this intuition and reply that Roger really is lucky to win the lottery. For example, in discussing cases of odd luck where a subject's epistemic probability assignments are out of step with our own, Stoutenberg notes that it is possible for a proposition to be justified to some degree for some individual, while that same proposition has a different probability for some other person. Yeah, so it's like if you think something's lucky and I don't think is lucky, and then you win, and I'm like, well, that wasn't lucky, and you're like, I was very lucky. It's like, well, who's right there? And this is the sort of thing that the author is saying here is that it can't just be a matter of opinion that you don't know how lucky something is for it to actually be lucky. Now, for you to feel lucky, that's all it takes. But they're saying, I guess, at the metaphysical level or at the level of the world, when you feel lucky, how you feel doesn't matter. What really matters is the statistics out in the world. Okay. Furthermore, in odd cases in which a subject has, subject has a degree of belief that is different from what is widely accepted, that subject's evidence must still be conducive to truth, and her beliefs must still be justified. The evidence-based theorist would thus respond that in the above example, Roger's evidence does justify his belief that he is incredibly lucky to win the lottery, and it is only from our perspective, that is when we know the lottery was rigged, that Roger's win is either non-lucky or involves very little luck. Yeah, I mean, what is it to feel lucky was it to be lucky? I mean, that's all we're talking here. But this makes some sense. Let's see where the author is going with it, though. However, the point of this example is not that people cannot have different justified beliefs about the probability of an event. Yeah, exactly, Frank. So it was, that was the luck. But, again, he's feeling lucky for the wrong reasons then. Like, he feels lucky that he won, not that he has great friends. And so, again, the luck that he feels doesn't correspond to the luck in the world at that point. And that's, like, where this author is really getting in, is that when you feel lucky, that may not actually be the case. Okay, author says, I agree that Roger should believe that he is lucky. The point is that there is a difference between justified and believing that something is true, and with that belief being true, and Roger's belief about how lucky he is cannot be correct because it is not a matter of chance that he won the lottery. One is almost certain to win a lottery that has already been rigged in one's favor. The fact that an evidence-based account holds that one can be very lucky to win an event that is rigged in one's favor shows that the epistemic probability is the wrong kind of probability for luck. So luck is an emotional response. Well, that's what the author is saying, that if you are using this theory that a lot of people use, that they're treating it like that's what it is, and that doesn't correspond to how the world is, so that can't really be how luck operates, because that's the counterexample. They're saying if you feel lucky, that doesn't matter. That only matters on what you thought the world was. But how the world actually is, that's really what luck is. So they're using this luck as an emotional response as a reductio ad absurdum against that account, the epistemic account. So they're saying no, it is not an emotional response, but they're saying that's the wrong view. They're using it as a counterexample. All right. An evidence-based account is also subject to counterexamples in which a significant event is lucky for a subject even though she has no evidence or hardly any evidence regarding its occurrence. Suppose a serial killer picks me out as his next potential victim, and that this serial killer uses an indeterministic gun to murder his victims. This odd gun successfully shoots 99.99% of the time, but whether it fires is genuinely chancy. Furthermore, this serial killer will only attempt to shoot his targets once, and I have no evidence that I am his next target. Suppose that this serial killer attempts to murder me, but his gun does not fire. Intuitively, I am very lucky to survive. However, according to an evidence-based account, my survival involves no to very little luck, since given my evidence, or lack thereof, the odds of me being shot are near zero. It is a counterintuitive result that a victim is not lucky to survive such an attack if she never becomes aware of having been a target. Yeah, Schrodinger's gun. This is the second time I've run into this sort of Schrodinger gun sort of situation. Apparently it's getting used, and the last time I was almost going to write a response paper because they fucked it up badly. Like, it would have made like Ivan Neo, who's a physicist, like really pissed off because like they fucked up Schrodinger's sort of a Schrodinger gun equation. So this is the second time I've seen this example where someone's using a chancy gun. I think it gets used more, but like it's getting used more and more. I think people like this for some reason. I don't know why. But I guess it's a cool idea. All right. The evidence-based theorist would likely respond by pointing out that mine not being shot is not epistemically guaranteed, so this event is still chancy. Ivan Neo says, I do not like this paper's argument. Yeah, I'm not sure I like this either. I don't know exactly where they're going with it. They're just saying that what it looks like it says the epistemic account is saying when you feel lucky, that doesn't really matter. The only luck in the world is actually, the statistics out in reality. Maybe. But we'll see. Author worries that due to our fallible nature, no future event is ever guaranteed, which would mean that any event, regardless of whether it is lucky or non-lucky, passes the epistemic probability condition. But this would mean that every significant event is a matter of luck. While luck is a more common phenomenon than we would like to admit, this seems absurd. Furthermore, evidence-based accounts get the degree of luck in this case wrong. Just before the serial killer pulled the trigger, there was a 99.99% chance that I would have been shot regardless of one's epistemic perspective. The evidence-based theorist would also respond that the proposition I am lucky that I was not shot by the serial killer is ambiguous. For example, Stoutenberg holds that luck attributions can only be made and evaluated from an epistemic perspective. This paper was written by an AI? Yeah, it could have been. So from my own perspective, in which I am ignorant of the serial killer and his special gun, I am not very lucky to survive, whereas from the serial killer's perspective, I would be very lucky not to be shot. The problem with this response is the same as in the Roger case. The evidence-based view makes it impossible for a subject to be mistaken about how chancy an event is if the subject is rationally weighing his or her evidence. Unless one is already an epistemic theorist, I see no reason why this remarkable claim should be accepted. People can be wrong about how chancy an event is, especially if, as in the above counterexamples, they are ignorant about or have misleading evidence. Yeah, I mean, it's like you have to know everything to actually know how chancy anything is. You have to know what the probabilities in nature are, which we can't know. So it's like, this is a little bit weird. So every significant event is a matter of luck. Well, of course. I mean, there's a lot of things in this world that are based on luck here. So I'm not really sure this person's got their physics right. And I think this may be Ivan Neo's gripe here, because they're shifting between different perspectives very, very fast here. And I'm losing the thread as I'm reading it because I'm trying to keep track of what perspective, who knows what, and like what exactly is going on. So it's like it's kind of hard to know. All right, but they're shifting very quickly, and I'm not sure that they've got all their ducks in a row, as it were. DCI says, I just wrote to haiku, testicles have taste. You wrote a haiku, testicles have taste, DCI banks. Oh, well, there you go. Congratulations. Ivan Neo says, if this guy was a Bayesian, I don't think he would be saying these things. Yeah, see, this is the thing. I don't think he has a solid, I don't even know if it's a he. Am I saying this right? They. Jesse Hilly. I don't even know if that's a guy or a girl. So we're going to go with they. I don't know if they have, they definitely have some understanding of probability here. That's fine. But this is not, I'm not exactly sure what their concept of probability that they're using is. Because from the very physicalist point of view, everything is chancy, given to down to the quantum physics will eventually propagate through to whatever chance anything is in this world. So it's certain things are chancy, certain things are less, but there is of course a measure of chance with everything. That's just physics. So that's the answer here. So they're not, the fact that they're saying that this would mean that every significant event is a matter of luck. Well, of course it is in a very trivial sense. While luck is a more common event than we would like to admit, this seems absurd. No, it doesn't. It seems perfectly in line with physics that everything has a little bit of error bars on it. That doesn't seem weird at all. So they're using a restricted notion of probability based on either evidence or not evidence, because this is not what the evidence people have is not what they're talking about. That's what they're saying is not right, because that's the epistemic thing. But this is the problem. I'm not exactly sure. This is worse than following the plot of a time travel movie. Yeah, this is why I avoid epistemology quite often, because it does these weird shifty things a little too much. And I don't like it because it doesn't seem like they have a very clear separation between the physical probabilities and the non-physical probabilities. And there's different kinds of non-physical probabilities, because if you put all the physical probabilities the way the world is in physics, well, yeah, there's probabilities that are involved there. That's not a problem. But then they're not talking about that here, and I'm not exactly sure what they're talking about. And so that makes this hard. Now, I don't think they're wrong in their argument, because if you are talking about how you feel about, if you feel being lucky, that is a question of epistemic luck. Like, how do you feel about it? What do you know? Ivanio says, I think we can just stick to epistemic probability estimates. Well, that's kind of what they're saying is wrong here, though. I mean, like, you think that's what they're saying, or is that what you're saying we should do? Because I think that's what they're trying to talk about, but the problem is that if they're talking about other things, it's not so clear. Yeah. And see, this is where they're going. They say that the epistemic accounts fail, so we'll see. Okay. The other way of epistemically defining luck's chanciness condition is via a knowledge condition. The knowledge condition, S is lucky with respect to E at T only if, just before T, S was not in a position to know that E would occur at T. Ivan says, I'm saying ontologically probabilistic stuff like quantum randomness is maybe not relevant. Yeah, that's fair. But like, it seems like they would want to not say the things they did. I agree with you. It's not relevant for this paper, but it seems like what they're saying here is just wrong then. Like, why would you say something that's wrong here? Well, this would mean that every significant event is a matter of luck, and like, seems absurd. Well, then from what perspective? It's from some causal perspective. But I mean, then you have to have like, yeah, an epistemic probability estimate. But again, they're saying that's what's bad here. And so it's like, you know, this is the first account with this epistemic probability condition. And then they're coming down here to this knowledge condition. And they're saying both of these are bad. So it's like, not exactly sure what they're maintaining the luck is here. We'll see. Okay, so you're not in a position to know. So before there was a probability, now you're not in a position to know that something was going to happen. Okay, the idea behind the knowledge condition is that if an event is to count as lucky at all, the lucky agent cannot have been in a position to know that it would occur. Ivan says, surviving the serial killer is not lucky, but of all the ways of surviving the killer, surviving through a gun jam is lucky. See, that's the thing. They're trying to slice that, like that you're making the distinction better than they are, because you can say, okay, look, it was not lucky because that was the way the physics worked out. Not lucky, we just know that. But then of all the things to go wrong here, that it was the most unlikely of all the things, that one option was the lucky of them. Maybe that's what they mean here. Could be. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, you can't know that the thing would occur. So again, this is just not like it's a probability. Now we're just saying you can't know. Okay, so this condition is only necessary for an event being lucky. It is unclear whether knowledge-based theorists view the conjunction of a significant condition and the knowledge condition as sufficient for an event being a matter of luck, or if additional conditions are necessary. Hefferweisen says, it was lucky the killer dropped dead of a heart attack just before pulling the trigger. Yeah, again, but see, Ivan would say, look, according to the physics, you're probably just going to die, because Ivan's a physicalist, and a lot of people here are. They're just saying, well, that was inevitable given the the killer's physical constitution. But like, that of all things stopping you from dying at the killer's hand, that was kind of lucky that happened right then and there at that time. They could have made some probability diagrams to help explain their idea. Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit, yeah. Again, this is in a major philosophy journal. They're writing for other philosophers, for people in this area. They could have done more to make this a little bit clearer to the rest of us. But, I mean, we're getting there, but it's just taking a little bit more time. Okay, unlike the evidence-based view, the knowledge-based account is not probabilistic, but it is gradable. Okay, so, yeah, see, this is interesting. Not probabilistic, but you can do something else. Quote, the knowledge condition should be read as a minimal condition on luck, which may be satisfied to a greater or lesser extent depending on how good the lucky agent's epistemic situation is in regarding to the lucky event. If the agent were almost in a position to know that it would occur, we might be inclined to say that although the event was lucky in a weak sense of satisfying the minimal requirement, it was not very lucky. On the other hand, if the agent were epistemically very far from knowing that the lucky event would occur, the event would be lucky to a greater degree. Hefeweizen says, well, to me, it's just assigning the term lucky to a certain probability threshold, entirely subjective. Yeah, well, that's what's going on here. They're saying in this minimal account now, they're saying, if anything you didn't know, and it has a little bit, but then they were also saying that's kind of trivial, in a weak sense, satisfying the minimal requirement. And so they know that. But like, then you'd say, look, significantly lucky, but that's not going to sink any of these authors' ships here. They know that. Okay. See, obviously, yes, this is what I mean. Obviously, a lot here depends on one's theory of knowledge and what it means to be almost in a position to know versus very far from knowing. So right there, they know this stuff. So Frank is also pointing out almost in a position to know is a really insubstantial phrase. Yeah. So this is a bunch of hand waving going on here. It just is. But they know it too. They're not that dumb. Okay, since knowledge-based theories do not offer an account of what luck is in terms of necessary and jointly sufficient conditions, our approach will have to be slightly different. In this section, I will argue that there are counterexamples to the knowledge condition in which S is lucky regarding E at T, even though just before the time they didn't know it would occur. They did not know it would occur. Okay, so consider the following case, Olga. Olga is one of a dozen domestic servants to Mr. Drake. One of Olga's many duties is to clean up Mr. Drake's notoriously messy study. One day while organizing Mr. Drake's desk, Olga notices that Mr. Drake has just made a new will. Glancing at the will, Olga discovers that Mr. Drake has disinherited his relatives and left his fortune to the servants of the household. Olga is shocked by her discovery. Mr. Drake's decision seems to have come out of nowhere. Furthermore, Mr. Drake is an old man who is dying from an incurable disease. Later that day, Mr. Drake falls into a coma. A doctor is sent for, and it is clear to everyone that Mr. Drake does not have long to live. Olga then forms the justified belief that she will inherit a tidy sum. A day later, Olga's belief turns out to be true. Mr. Drake passes away, and the servants of the household inherit his fortune. Hooray for the servants! All right. Okay. Olga's belief that she will inherit a tidy sum is justified and true. This is probably not enough for knowledge, but we can stipulate details of the case such that her belief is almost certain to be true. For example, suppose that Olga's society always upholds the details of a last will and testament, and that Olga knows that Mr. Drake never had a chance to make a new will before falling into a coma. Given these details, Olga is in a position to know, or come very close to knowing, that she will inherit a tidy sum before this event occurs. Thus, according to the knowledge-based account, the fact that Olga inherits a tidy sum is either non-chancy or nearly certain. Thus, Olga's inheritance is either non-lucky or only slightly lucky. This seems wrong. Intuitively, it is very lucky for Olga that she inherited the money. What? What? No, because this all happened, it's only after the fact that all this happened that she inherits the money. It would have been incredibly lucky beforehand, but not that lucky afterwards. It happens immediately afterwards. This makes no sense at all, I don't think. All right, let me finish up this paragraph. Let's see if they say anything less confusing. This is because the significant event is chancy. Had Mr. Drake gone into a coma before changing his will, which is possible given his state of health, then his relatives would have inherited the money instead of Olga. Furthermore, if Mr. Drake's decision was made on a whim, then he could have done otherwise and not left any money for Olga. Frank says this is vague language. Olga is lucky to inherit over the period before she knew she would inherit the time when she inherited. She was not lucky in the period between learning she would and when she inherited. Yeah, that's exactly where I was going, Frank. Ivan Neo says this paper is brutal. Right, there are multiple Bayesian updates here. Exactly. This is an update problem here, and like this is the sort of paper that annoys me why I don't get get publications in some of these journals, because I'm like, this clearly looks like two different events. You've got the time before she sees the will and the time after the will, and clearly you weren't expecting him to change the will, but that's in the time before the will. After the time he made the new will, it's not a lucky thing, it's a certainty at that point, or near certainty. So it's like that doesn't matter. Like there's two things going on here. So yeah. Will Olga be rich enough to hire her own servants? I don't know. That's a good question, Hefeweizen. And yeah, will Olga leave her inheritance to those servants? I hope. Maybe Olga has some kids or something, but don't know. Exactly, Ivan. Is she available? Okay, the knowledge-based theorist could respond that I've misidentified where the luck is in this case. Perhaps it's not a matter of luck that Olga inherited a tidy sum since she knew this would happen. Instead, it is Mr. Drake changing his will that is lucky since Olga had no idea this significant event would occur. See, this is the thing. The author knew this. I still don't think they said it very well, but they kind of knew that, like, okay, there was something else going on here, and I still don't think they said it well. Okay. The problem with this response is that Mr. Drake changing of his will is significant for Olga only if Olga inherits the tidy sum. So while the first event, the changing of the will, is what makes the second event, Olga inheriting the money, chancy, the second event is what makes the first event significant. But since both significance and chanciness are necessary conditions, it is difficult to claim that only the first event is lucky. Oh, come on. Like, this is the whole point. The things are interrelated. You can't separate them out, that the first event is lucky. The inheritance is tied up with the first event. And so the idea that the author is separating these two things out is ad hoc. It's like they're separating this out into events that they want for their theory here, not because it actually makes sense from like a third point, like from like a, you know, God's point of view or like a sky overarching point of view. The author is separating out the events according to what they want to say, not because it makes sense. Okay, so they say instead that Olga inherits a tidy sum is lucky because it is significant and a matter of chance since its primary cause is chancy. Yeah, if you take the whole thing, then yeah, the fact that he changed his will and she didn't know, then she got lucky that he changed his will for whatever reason he did that. But whatever that luck is, but you can't separate out the changing of the will and her inheriting it because that's cherry picking what event counts as what. That's what's going on here. It's a cherry pick. Alternatively, perhaps the knowledge-based theorist could reply that what is lucky about the case is that Olga was employed in a household where the employer would, in the future, leave his fortune to his servants. If this is correct, then the knowledge-based account would survive this counterexample. This is because when Olga is hired, she does not know that this will eventually lead to her inheriting a large sum of money. Again, this is just cherry-picking a different event. When she hired, that this would happen in the future to that future household. Again, picking the events as the theory needs. This is not very systematic. So author says, first, my response to the previous objection applies here as well. What is significant about the case is that Olga inherits the money. Says who? Why is that significant? That's what you want to be significant, author. Author says, it thus seems odd to pick out other events that are only significant given that Olga inherits the money as being where the luck actually resides. No. The whole situation could be considered lucky. You can't pick and choose what you think is lucky. Just the money. Maybe Mr. Drake was a great guy to work for. Maybe that was lucky. Like, you can't pick and choose what you want to be called lucky. Money is not the only thing that exists in this world. Okay, second, it does not follow from the fact that Olga is hired that she will eventually inherit the money. It seems incorrect then to locate this event as what makes Olga's inheritance a matter of chance. Third, there will always be some time in our past in which we do not know that a future event will occur. That's always. Infants, for example, have few, if any, propositional beliefs, and what happens to us as infants is relevant to our future choices. The point being that many events could pass the knowledge condition if we were willing to look far back enough in the past. Everything passes it. That's the whole point of the thing that says everything is a matter of luck. Yeah, your whole life is a matter of luck in that sense. So yeah. Let's get to the end of this. Let's just finish this up quick. Frank says, if I were grading this paper, I would say that the writer's imaginary knowledge-based theorist is out arguing the main thrust of the paper. Yeah, I mean, this is why I warn against reading epistemology on stream. I know the viewer count has dropped precipitously now. It's okay. I don't mind that, but it's like, these things are complicated and these things are very hard to get straight, and the current literature doesn't even seem to get it right most of the time, which is really depressing. I like epistemology, but I had to stop doing it because of just what looks like rampant sort of confusions in the discussion. Yeah, welcome to your world. I know. I mean, I was having a good day before. I got raided. I got raid from Ivan. I got raid from Walt. It was cool. I'm not worried about my viewer count though. But it's like, yeah, because Hefeweizen streams a bit. Globus. Yeah, I know. I like looking at my viewer count. I'm not worried about it, but it's like I know certain topics kill me because this is just what happens in these things. Because once you start digging into them, they start to fall apart very quickly. And so, I mean, I'm not a big streamer. I'm not worried about like my numbers going up and down. So I've been doing this, like I said, this is a 450th philosophy paper I've read. 450. I'm not worried about like, is this one going to get me a lot of views or not? But like, I'm more concerned, what the fuck is going on in philosophy that this is like passing muster? You know? So like, it's not even that bad compared to other papers. It's not. That's why it's getting published. But it's just like, it's just not a very, I just don't find it very interesting to me. The only thing I will say is it probably, losing my voice. Yeah, 450. There probably are epistemic theorists of luck, and this made a point against them. The idea that was said earlier was that like just because you feel lucky, that does not represent the world, and that probably is a problem for those people. Yeah, it's like, okay, the problem is the rest of the presentation here kind of sucks. All right, so yeah, let's get this done. Lastly, the knowledge-based theorist could respond that Olga does not really know that she will inherit the money, and so this event is lucky. After all, she could have died before the will was read. This response suffers from two problems. First, the knowledge-based account gets the degree of luck in the Olga case wrong. Even though Olga is close to knowing that she will inherit the money, she is still quite lucky to do so. Second, if our standards for knowledge are this high, then every event will be a matter of luck, and the knowledge condition will thus be powerless to distinguish between lucky and non-lucky events. Yeah, see, this is the thing. Again, what you're considering to be non-lucky has to be, massaged here. Like, they have to say, it's a knowledge-based thing, or something in the epistemics. Okay. Constitutive luck on epistemic accounts. One last problem with all the versions of the epistemic accounts is that they deny the existence of some forms of constitutive luck, that is, luck in the kind of person you are, in your inclinations, capacities, and temperament. Consider a case in which a subject S is born with a genetic disease that is both subjectively and objectively bad for S. Here the relevant event E is that S has a genetic disease. The main concern with constitutive luck on an epistemic account is that the probabilities in question are always conditional on there being an S who either knows or has evidence regarding E. However, for some instances of constitutive luck, there is no body of evidence that is relative to S's having some property prior to S's existing, and by the time S exists, E has already occurred and has a probability of 1. This would make such instances of constitutive luck non-lucky. Again, so this is how you pick how do you pick the event? If there's some disease that exists before you that you already have that has a probability of 1, then it's 1 that you have it. And so again, they're saying it's not lucky because it exists as you existed at the same time. But this is dumb. It's how you pick the event again that states that it existed before you did. The instance that it existed as you grew up because it was genetic and so it happened at the same time, you could make the symptoms did not exist until after you existed. And so that's really the problem. If I just talk about the symptoms here, then it's not talking about the genetic disease. And again, then it's who picked the right event. But what's interesting, okay, but there is no reason that luck couldn't be happening continuously over some time. Fair, yeah, yep. Maybe luck is quantized. Ooh. I mean, basically luck is something we are, again, we're talking about is like there's a probability or something, and something less likely happened, and that less likely thing is significant. Why is it significant? Well, it seems like the way you slice up the world makes it seem significant. The problem here is it seems way too arbitrary how they're slicing up the world. Yeah. Now, I mean, what do you mean, Frank, that's happening continuously over time? I agree that there could be luck that is continuously acting, sure. I don't think that's, it's constitutive, not continuous luck. Constitutive luck if I misspoke earlier, I'm sorry, constitutive of what a person is. So they're saying that the person is constitutively have a genetic disease, and that's bad for the person. But again, the disease itself is not bad. It's the symptoms that the disease is. The interesting thing is that the luck does feel like it started before the person existed. Yeah, that's the thing. But this goes back to the physics. If you want to talk about the physics of, like, say a person and the genetic DNA came together, then that's a question of like a genetic, how the DNA recombined between like the sperm and the egg. And so then you're saying, what is the significant thing for this person? Well, they didn't exist because it happened at a prior time before they existed. But again, then you could just say, well, what's the significant event? Well, maybe it was the way the DNA combined in the sperm and the egg. And again, it's how you choose the object, and it's cherry picked yet again. The person couldn't have had expectations before they existed, so the degree the luck is feeling is based on expectations. It's weird. Yeah, from the perspective of the person with disease, I agree, but that's an after the fact. Now, what luck are we talking about? Sure. Now, could they feel bad about having a genetic disease? Yeah, but that would go back to then you'd say of all the, like, that would be, woe is me for getting this genetic disease. No, woe is me for being among the people that get this genetic disease. That would again separate you, the person with the disease, from the specific instance. And then you could say, well, it was probabilistic that it happens at 0.0001% in the population, and I happen to be one of those. That's not weird. But if you were talking specifically in my case that I got this, yeah, do I feel bad about it? Well, that'd be like feeling bad about my life before I existed. Yeah, that would be weird, but you don't have to talk about it in that way. Ivan Neo says it's unlucky but not epistemically unlucky. Should we explain constitutive luck on epistemic grounds? That is surprising to the person. I don't see it. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you go society based, then it's not epistemically unlucky. So if they're focusing on the epistemic luck, yes, but we shouldn't be talking about that here. That's confusing. So yeah, and this is why they're ignoring of like the physical luck, I think, is a big problem here. Ivan Neo says it's not epistemically surprising to the person with the disease, even if it's unlucky in the constitutive case. Yeah, I mean, they know they have it. It's not epistemically unlucky. They understand that it's there's a distribution of the disease in society. That they got it is unlucky, but it's not. It's just a fact of their life. That they understand that they have a disease is not unlucky. That's just causal. Like, they got a disease. They know it's bad, low chances in society, and they have it. It's not unlucky that they don't feel unlucky for the way they got it. They feel unlucky that they were one of the people that got it. Like, it's weird. Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah. So this is part of the thing. That's weird. I mean, this would. Yeah. Although if I'm just trying to think of why am I unlucky for having this disease, it's like it's not thinking about my history. It's like the physics is not like lucky to me. You need a Thomas Bayes emote. The problem is you'd be the only one who knows what Thomas Bayes looks like. I don't know what he looks like off the top of my head. Yeah. Maybe you could have like a little P/E or something. Although the above argument seems fatal to an evidence-based approach, perhaps a knowledge-based theorist could slightly amend her view to account for the existence of constitutive luck. Consider the following revised version of the knowledge condition. Knowledge condition star. S is lucky with respect to E at T only if it is not the case that just before T, S was in a position to know that E would occur at T. Okay. This version of the knowledge-based view can make sense of cases of constitutive luck, whereas the original version of knowledge condition ran into the problem that S does not yet exist before E. This revised condition avoids the issue concerning reference failures. Why is that? Yeah, because there's less time stamping on this one. There's no time stamping, so it's just the person can know. Okay. This is because it is true that it is not the case that just before T, S was in position to know that E, where E is, again, that S has a genetic disease. Okay. This new view suffers from at least two problems. First, it is ad hoc. It seems against the spirit of the epistemic account to view such cases in this way and not in terms of how close an actual subject is to knowing that E. Second, this new view would entail that all instances of constitutive luck are all equally chancy. However, instances of constitutive luck are usually viewed as luckier if the trait in question is either unlikely to occur or is rarely instantiated. again, I think they're mixing up like these kinds of lucks. Like it's so weird. Oh, who is that? Is that what's his name? Descartes. Yeah, that's Nick Cage Descartes. That's awesome. Your grade for the paper? Yeah. Well, this one is gonna get a bunch of golden poops. That's what it'll get. Alternatively, an epistemic theorist could respond that cases of constitutive luck are better described as a matter of fortune or fate. This is what we're talking about. Why didn't they just do this the first time? Because these are not the same things as constitutive lucks. Ugh, come on. As Rusher puts it, a person can be fortunate to have a good disposition or a talent for mathematics, but she cannot be lucky in these regards because chance is not involved. One has to be there to be lucky. It's not as though there were some world external fertilization preceding version of oneself who has the luck to draw a good or a bad assignment. Yes, this is what we were saying. First, it is not clear that chance is not involved in cases of constitutive luck. Not all instances of constitutive luck involve essential properties, and whether a subject has a particular property can be modally fragile and or vary within a relevant reference class. Second, many people, for example, Bladus and Levy, would object that being born with a debilitating disease is terribly unlucky, and that one's epistemic position regarding such cases is irrelevant. Lastly, epistemic accounts have the rather odd consequence that S's being born with a genetic disease, while not a matter of bad luck for S, could still be unlucky for S's parents or those who care about S. Again, these are all how you slice up the situation. All of these counterexamples, like what they're saying here, is that you're looking at different things. All of these things are fine, but then you can't say you have a preference for one of them. And just be like, this is the right answer. It's like, yeah, all the different people have all these different things that could have been said. My argument in this paper can be summarized as follows. First, if one favors an epistemic account of luck, then one will view luck's chanciness condition in terms of either a subject's evidence or knowledge that an event will occur. However, both evidence-based and knowledge-based approaches are subject to counterexamples. Furthermore, epistemic accounts have difficulty explaining some instances of constitutive luck. Because of these problems, we should not define luck's chanciness condition in epistemic terms. Okay, we didn't like this paper. I didn't like this paper. Maybe someone out there did and will let us know. But here's the review. Again, what do we think? Did it make big claims that shrivel up? Not really. But what was it? What did it do? It talked about things that philosophers care about. So we're just going to get Nog navels. It's going to get a bunch of these, actually. This is navel gazing philosophy. It also is going to get the Nog turd. So Nog T. And it's going to get a few of these. You get 3 navels and 3 poops, and it will get a Nog knife too because it's analytic. You get the analytic here. And it's going to get a vote nay. It's going to get 2 vote nays. So there we go. This is the worst reviewed paper we had in a while. But yeah, that's what happens. It's like, it just seems like a whole lot of cherry picking. Now you could say, well, these are all counterexamples, but yeah, it seemed way too susceptible of the way you are describing the situation. Way too susceptible to how you're describing the situation. So that's the problem here. Yeah, and there's a lot of blowing smoke. And this is the problem with a lot of epistemology and current epistemology I have. It just looks like they are talking about things in sort of very narrow ways, and it's not getting at anything very helpful. I do feel like I feel slightly bad. I feel like this might be a, grad student or something. And as far as grad student work goes, this is actually not bad. They showed competence in the way things are done, I just hate it. But if this was grad student work, good for them. They got a nice paper in a good journal, and just because this is the way things are done, that's not really their fault. Dancy? What's Dancy? It just didn't really... Oh, dancing around. Yeah, it didn't stick to anything. Yeah, that's fair. I was saying that earlier. It just seems like they weren't really focused on a lot of very straightforward. Their examples were not straightforward. They had too many of these things. I didn't hate their examples. Their examples were not bad, to tell you the truth. I didn't hate the Olga example. I thought they gave the not bad examples. But I thought the way they were shifting between the way of talking about epistemics luck was tough. Not you meant brain dancy. Okay. You didn't want to say the word. Okay. You were thinking of close. Okay. That's fine. It can be a little bit of fun and have some good ideas, but not really go anywhere. You didn't want to get recorded as saying it. Okay, that's fair too. I mean, you don't want to be in, but feel free to vote like yay or nay if you don't want to say so. But yeah, that's fair. I thought their examples were good. I didn't really hate like the way their presentation of it. It's just I didn't think they really had a solid way of discussing what they want to discuss. They just got too lost in the weeds and too many arbitrary ways of like picking out things. Nay, but you feel a little bit mean about it. That's fine. If you like this stuff, that's cool. I'm not the last word on anything. Some people like this kind of epistemology. I do not. That's all.